Hey everybody, welcome back to another meal prep video. Tonight I got something pretty good for you guys. Tonight we're going to be having all natural boneless pork chops, sauteed or caramelized onion, and a new product I found, veggie made riced cauliflower original by Bird's Eye. Now, this is going to be a pretty simple meal. It tastes good. Everybody that I know likes pork chops. They got some good fat content in there to help you hit your macros. The cauliflower rice will help me restrain myself from eating too many carbs, because that's kind of the bane of my existence right now, is trying to not eat way too many carbs. And the onion, the caramelized onion, will just be a nice top and pairing with the pork chops. So what we're going to be using as seasoning is, first and foremost, is going to be the Grill Mate Montreal Steak Seasoning by McCormick. This stuff is amazing. I'm going to be putting that on my pork chops. It's really made for steak and beef, but like I said in a previous video, this stuff is great on almost anything. Chicken, pork. I've tried it on fish. I'm not too sure about the fish, but French fries, carbs, anything like that. So that's going to be going with my pork chops. For the caramelized onion, that's just going to be salt, ground pepper, and olive oil. We're going to be adding the salt and the pepper a little bit later when the onion cooks down, just because the salt will tend to bring out a lot of the moisture in the onion itself. Likewise, the cauliflower rice, this is just a simple microwave bag, but afterwards we're going to be seasoning that with salt, pepper, and a little bit of garlic seasoning powder. So let's get started. We're gonna go ahead and prepare our onion first. Set my seasonings and stuff to the side for a minute. Make sure this cauliflower rice is meant to stay frozen until you cook it, so I'm gonna put this back in the freezer. Now, when doing an onion, you can do it several ways. I mean, you can slice it, dice it, julienne, whatever you'd like to do. So I'm just going to be slicing my onion tonight. So we're just going to be cutting the caps off here, the tops and the bottoms. We can get rid of that. Next, I'm going to be cutting this in half. And we're going to be getting rid of the top peel. Obviously, you don't want to be eating any onion peel. I can go right down the disposal. A little more off there. So the way I cut these is pretty simple. You can take your time with this, faster, slower, whatever you'd like to do. But I basically, you can slice it like so, or you can just go ahead and chop it all the way down. Make sure you don't cut them too thin. They tend to not caramelize quite as well on the pan as a medium thickness. Let me get rid of that part there. That's one. That's two. It's going to be going in there. This onion's a little bit old. It has some sprouts on it, but it's still good. Just make sure you don't have any of the skins in your mix here. So for now, we're gonna put this to the side. I'm gonna put it over here. Next off, I'm gonna be rinsing my cutting board. We're gonna break into these pork chops. Normally I'd like to get a bone-in pork chops, but these are on sale. I tend to find that the bone adds a little more flavor and moisture in the pork chop. we're gonna go ahead and open that up. I'm gonna grab a plate or a dish so I can season these guys on. You don't really need to do much with these. Just grab them, throw them on a plate. No, I touched the plastic there, but that's okay. I'm gonna use my right hand for the seasoning process of this. So seasoning, I'm always fairly liberal on. I like some good flavor on my meats. Get that good mix on there. I'm gonna throw this away. And as you can see, I've seasoned those up on top pretty well. These are kind of thin, so I don't need too much. I'm gonna go ahead and get the backs too. Always season both sides. And you can be sure that you're gonna be getting enough flavor then. At the butcher shop I used to work at, this was our seasoning of choice for all the steaks and everything we used. We would suggest McCormick's Grill Mate. Buy that stuff in bulk. All right, now that you can see my pork chops are seasoned, we're gonna move over to the oven side and show you how we do the onions and saute the pork chops. Okay everyone, I have almost preheated my oven. You guys know I like that 375 temperature. It's my favorite thing to cook most things on, mostly just pork and chicken. I got one pan, stainless steel pan for my pork chops. That's going to be a medium-high heat. If you have an oven 1 through 10, you know, put that on a 6 to 7 for a nice sear. The onions I have on this top left pan. From my view, I also have that on a medium-high heat. I have that on about a 6. So we're just gonna let these heat up for a minute. Get nice and warm. And while these are warming up, I'm gonna go ahead and put my olive oil in these pans. For this, I'm gonna use olive oil because butter might burn in this because I'm going kind of a high temperature. I'm gonna let this, there goes my preheat. Put a little more oil into this pan. And you want to let the oil heat up with the pan, or else the temperature difference will just be great. You really want to wash around your pan, get the oil everywhere it can get, really making a nice non-stick surface for you. Now it might get kind of loud. I'm going to have to turn on my oven fan here in a second. I apologize for that. I've also turned off my apartment AC, so it's gonna get a little warm in here. If you've seen my previous video, my fire alarms tend to go off pretty quickly if my AC is on. It gets sucked up into the air and the fire alarm's just going off. And we have a kitty and she does not like that. She'll hide under the bed for like an hour. And she's peacefully sitting over there, having a good old time. So I'm gonna try to prevent that from happening. So one thing that I can't really recommend, but I do, is to see when your oil is hot enough, you get a small little drip of water on your fingers and you just flick it in the pan. Again, if you're not experienced in cooking, I wouldn't suggest that, because if you get too much, you can possibly start an oil fire or oil splatter on yourself. But I do just a tiny bit. But if you're not comfortable with cooking or haven't been in the kitchen for years, just avoid that. And just, there's another, rule of thumb. Hold your hand about 2 inches from the pan, and if it's too hot to hold, then it's hot enough there for 2 seconds. I don't know if that makes any sense. This small pan will obviously get a lot hotter quicker than this large pan. They're both heating up pretty nicely though. I like these large stainless steel pans though. On these electric ovens, they tend to really distribute the heat all the way around. It takes a little more time to heat up, but the distribution of heat is just excellent on these thicker pans. Also, for my onions, I'm gonna get a small cup of water, and I'll show you guys why here in a little bit. So I start getting rocking and rolling, and I can tell by the smell and the feel that these onions are ready to start rocking and rolling. So I'm gonna start my fan. I'm gonna dump all your onions into this hot pan. You're gonna hear some crackles and pops, that's okay. I suggest getting a wooden spoon of some kind so you can turn it. Now for caramelizing onions, you don't want to stir too soon or too rapidly, just because we're really going to get them to caramelize, not sweat. They got to be hot. So this pan is hot now too, so we're going to go ahead and set these pork chops in here, all four. For the pork chops, I'm going to get a pair of tongs. I'm going to go ahead and get this plate out of the way. Now the pork chops, you want to let go for about 3 minutes aside, usually. So what's the time now? Alright, so at 37, I can go ahead and flip these bad boys. No, I'm going to flip them at 36. The reason for the medium to high heat on these is just to get a good a sear on both sides without charring them. So these are nice and hot. I'm going to go ahead and give them a bit of a stir. Break them up a little bit. And don't be afraid to cook the onions for a significant amount of time. To properly caramelize an onion, it's not going to take 2 minutes. Might not even take 3. You're going to want to do those puppies for like, I don't know, 8 to 10 minutes, maybe even longer, depending on how many onions you have in there. Just because they take so long to caramelize. You can tell once they're caramelized from the, they get this awesome, like, brown color to them, and when you taste them, the natural sugars are cooked to where they can be tasted, so it's going to taste almost sweet to you. So I'm going to turn up my heat on this a little bit. It's just about time to flip over these pork chops. I'm going to let them go for a little bit longer. A good rule of thumb, you want to be able to see about, depending on how big your pork chop is, about that much before you flip them. I'm going to go ahead and flip them now. It's getting a little smoky in here. I'm going to go ahead and throw the pork chops into the oven and cook them a little bit longer, maybe about 7 minutes, so I don't set off my fire alarm. I'm gonna go ahead and keep working on these onions, and I'll be back with you guys very soon. So as you can see, my onions are starting to get a little bit browner. You'll start to see in the bottom kind of a brown hue or tint in the bottom of it. This is perfectly normal. A lot of people freak out and stop cooking them here. No. You want to cook them longer. All right? You'll get little bits that stick to the bottom, and that's completely okay. I'm going to give it just a little bit longer. And what you want to do at this point, you get too much stuff sticking in the bottom, that's completely fine. Because at this point, you take your water, you add just a teeny bit of water in there. It's going to add some smoke. That's cool. This water is going to get everything off the bottom. See? Everything off. And we're going to lower this temperature down just a bit. Keep these cooking, baby. Keep them cooking. Like I said, a lot of people undercook their onions. And there's just so much flavor that can come out of them when cooked long enough. See this color, how it's starting to darken? This is getting perfect, man, perfect. Oh yeah, that's looking nice. Another way to keep them from sticking to the bottom is we begin our next step. We're gonna add our salt and our pepper. Salt brings out moisture in the onions, and that moisture will help it keep it off that bottom and get burned. Keep it from getting burned. I'm gonna set this down real quick like I did in my last video and grind a little pepper. So my pepper is nice and in there. I'll go ahead and combine it in there. Just get these nice and brown. Oh yeah, that's looking nice. You don't want any white color in your caramelized onions, stuff like that. You don't want that. You want to keep cooking it until they are golden everywhere. You get those pieces to the bottom. Really let that keep chugging along. Add just a touch more water. Get some of that nice flavor off the bottom. And that's going to keep chugging along. We got the pork chops down in the oven now. Like I said, I'd usually like to sear them on both sides for about 3 minutes, but just living in an apartment like this, too much smoke in here and the fire alarm just goes ballistic. It doesn't call the fire department or anything, but it scares the crap out of my cat. I don't want that. But I'll be back with you guys when these are done and when I can get the pork chops out. All right. Okay, everyone. I have my cauliflower rice done. All of my pork chops are cooked. I got one on my plate. I'm gonna show you guys just how I'd plate it. So this cauliflower rice is gonna be new to me, so I don't know if it's good or not. I'm sure it is. It's just ground up cauliflower. Make sure you don't burn yourself on the bag. These things get really hot. So the cauliflower I read already has a little bit of salt in it. But like anything you get from the store, it's probably not gonna be enough. I'm gonna put a little bit more in there. I'm gonna go ahead and throw black pepper in there. You know, already ground pepper is great, convenient, but I just love the taste of black, fresh ground black pepper. It really adds some flavor. Our garlic powder. So we're gonna top that pretty well with garlic powder. We're gonna take our spoon, Get it all in there. All right, that is mixed fairly well. And I'm guessing I can get 3 portions out of this. I'm only gonna put 2 because I gotta feed my wife too. So I'm gonna make 2 meal preps just to show you guys. So these pork chops, I'm guessing they're about 4 ounces a piece, but we'll make sure. I got a little guy in there too. We'll take the first one. Yeah, that's a 4.6. So each of these is gonna be 1 serving. Maybe these 2 I'm gonna portion into 1, I'm not sure. But again, we're gonna cut it on a bias like I taught you guys last time. I'm gonna move this out of the way for now. And the internal temperature on pork nowadays, I believe, is 145. It used to be like ground beef, or might have been even on the 165 degrees of chicken temperature, but now I believe it's 145. Okay, this is about 4.5 ounces, so we're gonna go ahead and get this separated into one of these bad boys. And you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and combine these together into one, just because I want to. Sometimes I eat heavier, sometimes I don't, it all depends. Now a teeny bit of pink in your pork is just fine. What you don't want is like a grayish or a darker color in the middle. That's a fair indication that the pork is not done whatsoever. Go ahead and portion those into there. Perfect, perfect. Now that we have our portioned out pieces, I'm gonna grab a spoon, something to portion our onions with. These onions are nice and dark, just you can see. I still got a little bit of white in there. I didn't cook them completely all the way to where I want them, but I'm a little pressed on time. So I'm gonna get some of the darker ones and just really put them on top. I don't really measure out how much onion I put in things. Onions generally just I consider vegetables, and you guys know I don't really portion vegetables too much, so that's gonna be good for that. Now we're gonna move on to the rice and portion out this rice. I'm probably gonna do about 5 ounces as well per container. We'll see. This bag's a little smaller than I thought. So maybe 4 ounces. Yeah, right there will work. Whoop. A little bit of spillage there. That's fine. And almost there. And that will do as well. And the rest is gonna go on my dinner. Anything, so I really try to get everything. That's perfect. I'll put the recipes on top of my rice. Add a little flavor. Again, this is nothing too fancy, but it'll do the trick for sure. So now just kind of show you guys what it looks like on a plate. It's not the prettiest of meals, but it's healthy. Does not have that many carbs in it, and will help you along the way to your fitness goals. Tell me what you guys think. Try this recipe and comment me what you think. See you guys next time.